UFC Fight Night Vegas 98. Brandon Royval vs. Tatsuro Taira takes place tomorrow evening. I want to give my picks and a brief preview for every single fight on the card. We are going to start with the very first fight of the night and work our way up. As usual, I'll try to go through some of the earlier fights a little bit faster so we can spend more time on the main event and things like that. Okay, so let's get started right away with that first fight that is up on the screen, which is Clayton Carpenter versus Lucas Rocha. Now, I've picked Clayton Carpenter to win. I believe he's pretty good. I also think he's pretty well-rounded. Although I do think Lucas Rocha could potentially be a live underdog here. Okay, this guy's got a ton of experience for somebody who's only 24. I know that it says 1-0 here, but that is absolutely incorrect. I believe he's 17-1. He's got a lot of knockouts, although he is only 5'3", which is small even for flyweight. Okay, but the reason I think he could be a live dog is because his experience is of a lot higher quality than Clayton Carpenter. Right? They both came from similar organizations. In fact, I believe they were both in the LFA, but Lucas Rocha was fighting guys with records similar to his, right? Like he's 17-1. Like I said, we see 14-1, things like that on his record. Whereas Clayton Carpenter was fighting guys with a lot less experience, guys that were like 5-0, 4-1, 6-2, or whatever, stuff like that. So, you know, that could potentially be a factor here, the experience factor. But I do think that Clayton Carpenter is well-rounded enough that if he's feeling danger on the feet, he can shoot a takedown. Flyweights don't typically just flatline each other with one shot, so he should probably have a bit of time to decide what he wants to do with the fight, and I think that he'll get the job done probably via decision or a submission. But either way, dude. Moving up the card to Dan Argueta versus Cody Haddon. You know what, dude? I had initially picked Cody Haddon, but I think I'm going to switch that up right now. Also, UFC, dude, check your website. I don't understand how you guys butcher things this badly. None of these guys are 1-0, okay? Now, Dan Argueta, if you look at his recent fights, right, he's got 2 no contests. I believe he's got a loss in there somewhere as well. He's not had the best luck. Okay, now one of those no contests was a premature stoppage. The other one was a drug test. He failed a drug test after the fight. Now, the premature stoppage, if I remember correctly, he was the one that actually got the stoppage. And I remember thinking that he kind of got hosed. Okay, and they don't normally turn things over like that, but they did in this case. You know, regardless, I think Dan Argueta is better than his last few fights, and I think that he's going to show that in this fight. I think he's a good wrestler and things like that. He also seems like a pretty cool dude. I remember the press conference following the premature stoppage. He seemed to just kind of like let it roll off his shoulder and things like that, and he wasn't all that bothered by it, which I do like that mentality, especially from a young fighter. We see a lot of these guys really fixating on things like that. He just wanted to get back to work. I think he gets the job done here, probably by decision. Okay, moving up the card to Julia PALASTRI, okay, versus Corey McKenna. Last time, dude, okay, I flipped a coin for the female fights, and that didn't work. That just didn't work. I got all of them wrong except the ones I actually picked, okay? I'm going to go with Julia PALASTRI here. I think she looks scarier. That's how I'm going to gauge this, okay? Also, Corey McKenna has, you know, lost to some really not good girls, whereas PALASTRI's loss was to a girl who's undefeated and has looked very good since coming to the UFC and has gotten a few wins in the UFC. So it's not, you know, her undefeated record does not come from smaller organizations, just to throw that out there. So I will be going with PALASTRI, or however it is you say her name, okay? Moving up the card to Junior TAFA versus SHARAF. Now, Junior TAFA was supposed to be fighting Chris Barnett, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, but either way, considering this is a short notice opportunity, this is crazy to me. Now, I don't know if the UFC have got their odds backwards, because they do that sometimes, where I'll see a guy that looks like a massive favorite, and I'm thinking, why? And then I go and double check on another website, and it's not the case, it's flipped. Now, I haven't checked, full disclosure, so maybe it is TAFA that's a huge underdog. Now, if that's the case, I'm going to be picking him. Okay, and even if it wasn't the case, I would probably still pick him, but I'm not quite sure why this guy would be such a big favorite over Junior TAFA. He's got very little experience against guys with very little experience. Okay, most of his wins are by knockout. Now, one of them's a ground and pound, but still, if you're going to stand with Junior TAFA as a heavyweight, who, by the way, this guy's also like morbidly obese, you could find yourself in some troubles, right? Junior TAFA and his brother also struggle when they get taken down, right? Because they're kickboxers. before they are MMA fighters. So I do think that that TAFA could get the job done here. And if he's an underdog, then, you know, I would absolutely take him in this fight. Although Sean SHARAF could, of course, decide he wants things on the ground, take him down. The TAFA brothers seem to have trouble kind of getting back to their feet. Although I will say that for the most part, they maintain pretty safe throughout that round. And then, you know, they get another chance once the round's over. But either way, I'll go Junior TAFA by way of KO. Moving up the card to Themba Gorimbo versus Niko Price. I'm going with Themba Gorimbo here, man. Niko Price is like at the end of his days. I'm not sure, dude. That last fight, even though he won against Alexander Morono, was absolutely shit. Okay, I have no idea why they put that on a main card. I believe that was Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier's pay-per-view. Shit fight. Okay. Niko Price is very inconsistent. I picked him to lose against Robbie Lawler. He was a pretty big favorite in that fight, and he did lose against Robbie Lawler, and not like, you know, like pretty badly, okay? So, I don't know, man. Themba Gorimbo hits hard. He's fast. He's got a lot of skills to back up that power. It's not just like he's, you know, a one-trick pony. So, I do think that Themba Gorimbo should be able to get this one done against Niko Price, all right? Moving up the card to Jonathan Pearce versus Pat Sabatini. Now, this is a fucking good fight, honestly. I think we're going to see some crazy scrambles in this fight. Like, these are the kinds of fights that involve wrestling or are more grappling heavy that I really enjoy. I think we're going to get, like I said, crazy scrambles, okay? Toss up for me. What are the odds on this one? Pearce is a, you know, not a huge favorite, but a sizable one, I guess. Almost a 2-to-1 favorite. Both these guys have lost to really good guys fairly recently, right? Like Jonathan Pearce lost to Brito, got ninja choked. I picked Brito to win that fight. And Sabatini lost to Diego Lopez, who, I mean, that loss has aged pretty well, right? Like, I'm not going to hold it against him all that much. Diego Lopez could be fighting for a title relatively soon. Both of them have some good wins on their record as well, although I'll point out Pat Sabatini, a lot of the good names you see on his record come from grappling matches, pure grappling matches, which is an issue, right, when you can get punched in the face. So I will be picking Jonathan Pearce. Also, his win over Christian Rodriguez, Pearce that is a pretty good win, especially since Rodriguez is a bit of a cunt. So, you know, good for Jonathan Pearce. I probably shouldn't have said that word. They're gonna screw me, but either way, dude, moving up the card, I'm going Jonathan Pearce by decision. Hopefully we see a choke somewhere, but either way, moving up the card. CJ Vergara versus Ramazan Tamirov. Okay, I'm going with Ramazan Tamirov, who allegedly has 0 fights. You know, the UFC, man, get your shit together. CJ Vergara seems to have real issues with dudes that deploy a more grappling heavy attack, and he seems to have a real issue getting back to his feet. We've seen this in quite a few fights. When guys have good top control, he can't seem to do a whole lot with it. He doesn't seem to be able to make the adjustments in between rounds or anything like that. He's been submitted a few times, so I'm going to be going with Ramazan Tamirov here. Now, Ramazan is smaller on the shorter side, right? So maybe Vergara can land something up the middle when he's entering, like a knee or something along those lines. But, you know, my money would be on Ramazan Tamirov to, you know, get to top position, maybe get a submission, but CJ Vergara's got pretty good defense on the ground. It's just that he can't get back up, so I'm going Tamirov. Moving up the card, all right, dude? We are on the main card now. Abdul Razak ALHASSAN versus Josh FREMD. Okay, now I'm going to point something out here. Dude, fuck Abdul Razak ALHASSAN, okay? Straight up. He should have been DQ'd in his last fight. Actually, he should have been arrested. No, I'm just kidding. He should have been DQ'd in his last fight, okay? He should have been. Like, I don't understand the weird arbitrariness, or I don't even know if that's a word, but, you know, the arbitrary decision on a referee to decide that that guy intended to do that foul and that guy didn't. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's all over the place, dude. Petr Yan intended to knee Aljamain Sterling in the head, but Magomed Ankalaev accidentally kneed Johnny Walker in the head. Abdul Razak ALHASSAN lands like 20 fucking elbows to the back of the head illegally, very clearly. And it was an accident. I don't understand it at all. Now, look, there's criticism for Brundage, like a reasonable amount of criticism. It did seem as though he quit. He was doing not very good in that fight. And I can understand being frustrated. if you're Abdul Razak Alhassan, or if you put money on Abdul Razak Alhassan, or quite frankly, Cody Brundage, or some shit, right? But it's not really his fault, dude. You got a guy fouling you that many times. I mean, you know what I mean? Maybe he thought he was going to get a DQ win because Abdul Razak Alhassan clearly did it intentionally over and over and over again, dude. He's a spaz inside and outside the cage. This guy has had some serious legal issues that are not so great when you look into it. And also, you know, last media day leading up to the Brundage fight, he was fucking going crazy on the media. I felt horrible for the people that were having to ask him questions. But, you know, either way, dude, okay? Aside from all that, I'm going to go with Josh Fremd. And I'm not super confident in this pick, I'll be honest. He is a bit of an underdog. Reason I'm picking him, dude, is he's huge. You see here, 6'4" to 5'10". Now, obviously, you know, Abdul Razak Alhassan, big jack boy, but I don't know, man. Josh Fremd is big, and he's decent on the ground. He can grapple, and once he can get the takedown, right? We've seen him submit guys inside the octagon. Also, we know that he's tough as nails, or at the very least, when it comes to his chin, which I think is what's going to be important here, right? We had Roman Kopylov had to go to the body to get rid of Josh Fremd after hitting him with like everything he could possibly hit him with. So I think that Josh Fremd should be able to, you know, not just get flatline KO'd. I mean, he could. Do you know what I mean? He could. Who knows? But I think he'll take down Alhassan and beat him up or find a submission or something along those lines. Also, something to keep in mind. I understand we're at middleweight, and Abdul Razak Alhassan does not look like every other 40-year-old, but he's like 39, right? He's getting up there in age. He's been very inactive. We had the issue in the last fight as well, so I don't know how much he's got left at a high level. So I'm going Josh Fremd here. Moving up the card, 2, Daniel Rodriguez versus Alex Morono. Okay, dude. I think this is going to be a shit fight, if I'm being honest. And I was a little torn on who to pick. And I still kind of am. Man, I don't know, dude. I think I'll go Alex Morono because, quite frankly, I don't understand how they could have Daniel Rodriguez as a 2-1 underdog at this point when he should be on a 4-fight skid right now, right? The only thing breaking that skid up is a win, quote unquote, over Li Jingliang, right? And I understand that he put on a good performance against Calvin Gastelum, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but I don't know if that was that fight, but I felt like in the moment he kind of got screwed with the decision. But I definitely know he got screwed when it came to the whole weight issue, right? Fuck Calvin Gastelum for doing that. Just last minute being like, actually, I don't want to just pull on a Marvin Vettori, or no, Apollo Costa. Pull in Apollo Costa, do you know what I mean? So I felt bad for him in that regard, but I don't know that D-Rod's going to just have the power. So Morono seems to be a fairly tough guy to finish, right? Like Ponzinibbio put him away in the 3rd round, but he was giving Ponzinibbio troubles that whole fight. I just don't think that Danny Rodriguez has that kind of power to just like starch him or some shit. And I feel like Morono might give him troubles because he's very awkward on the feet. And so I could see him kind of just landing shots at range and winning a decision. But, you know, you never know. I guess Morono's getting up there in age too. I did just shit on his fight earlier with Nico Price, you know, and picked against Nico Price using that as a reason. But Daniel Rodriguez is not, you know, I don't know, man. Either way, moving up the card, 2, Grant Dawson versus Rafa Garcia. Dude, I'm going to go Dawson. Some of these odds are out of fucking control on this fight, okay? Fight card, rather. I'm going to go Dawson, but I do think Garcia could be a live dog. He's got enough submissions on his resume that I don't know that he's just going to get completely manhandled. Now, when you go and look at who they've been competing against, obviously Grant Dawson's fought a lot better competition. And what I keep going back to is remembering him just ragdoll Damir Ismagulov, and it made me so fucking mad. Because he didn't do a whole lot, but Damir Ismagulov is very good, so it was kind of impressive at the same time, but it was frustrating because I wanted to watch Damir Ismagulov make his way up the ranks, although he ended up having to leave anyways. You know, I'll give Grant Dawson the edge, but I feel like in terms of like danger, Rafa Garcia is probably a bit more dangerous, or a bit more, I don't know how to word it, but I feel like he looks for a finish more than a guy like Grant Dawson does, which is not inherently a bad thing. Grant Dawson, you know, favors position, and then he'll start to work from there. But you know, you never know. Rafa Garcia could be dangerous off his back. You know, we saw Grant Dawson get starched in like 10 seconds against Bobby Green. Minus 425 is fucking crazy when he's not been super, super consistent. But either way, I'm going to go with Grant Dawson. I think he edges it out. I don't know that he's able to find a submission against Rafa Garcia. So, you know, either way. Moving up the card, 2. Chidi NJOKUANI versus Jared Gooden. I guess I'm going to go with NJOKUANI. I guess. He's a favorite, which I don't necessarily like. He's lost 3 straight and he just bounced back. Or sorry, he had lost 3 straight and just bounced back with a split decision victory over Rice McKee. Which is like, okay, you know. Gooden's looked a lot better than that recently. He's been finishing guys and things like that, albeit against weaker competition. So maybe that's where the odds come from. But, you know, also Jared Gooden, if I'm not mistaken, has a bit of a gas tank issue. So maybe NJOKUANI can stay safe for like 5 minutes and then start to do the shit he wants to do. Do you know what I mean? But I'll go NJOKUANI. Hopefully by finish, because that'd be nice. Moving up the card, 2. Brad Tavares versus Jun Young Park, okay? It's crazy to me that Brad Tavares is a co-main event in damn near 2025. Like, that is crazy. Good for him, dude. Been around for so long. But, you know, I don't know here. I'll point out that Tavares is, you know, obviously older in his career. He's been knocked out quite a few times. But sometimes this dude just, like, shows up. He's like a Bruno Silva type where he can take a bunch of shots from Alex Pereira, but Gerald Meerschaert drops him. Do you know what I mean? Like, Brad Tavares has been finished by guys that didn't age all that well. And then he goes to a decision against Dricus du Plessis. So it's a weird one. Also, he's never been submitted. Ever. Which could be relevant here. Because Jun Young Park, while he's got some knockouts on his record, I think only one of those is in the UFC. And I could be mistaken, but I feel like he's got like 4 or 5 rear naked chokes inside the UFC. Like, we know what Jun Young Park likes to do. He's probably going to want to grapple Brad Tavares in this fight, which could be tricky. Brad Tavares might be able to vet it out and, like, not get submitted and then maybe do enough damage on the feet, you know? Jun Young Park does have power, but his striking's not fantastic. I'm going to go with Park, but I'm a little hesitant if I'm being honest. If the odds were a little bit heavier in Jun Young Park's favor, I might actually pick Tavares as an underdog just because he's not been submitted. And, you know, you just never know when all of a sudden he's going to have a really good performance. So, but I'll go Jun Young Park for the sake of safety, I guess. Okay. I don't know that he submits him, but I could see him winning a decision. Moving up the card, 2, Brandon Royval versus Tatsuro Taira. Okay. Now, I've picked Tatsuro Taira here because of grappling. We've seen Brandon Royval be controlled in fights. We've seen him get submitted. But my only problem is that this is a 5-round fight. We know Brandon Royval can go 5 rounds because he doesn't expend a whole lot of energy. He's just like, it's real pitter-patter. He's not really ever trying to hurt you. He's just trying to land. Or at least it seems like that. Obviously, there was the example of Mateus Nicolau, who when he shot on him, he took a knee and he finished him off or whatever. But when he's at range just kind of boxing, you're not really in any danger of being hurt. And he's not in danger of blowing his gas tank. Tatsuro Taira, though, we have seen get tired. Against Edgar Chairez, he was tired and was starting to get landed on towards the end of that fight as well, if I'm not mistaken, the end of round 2 and also some of round 3. Like, it was a close call. You could tell he was relieved when that final bell rang. So it's like when he can't finish you, he expends so much energy trying to get you out of there with his grappling that it could be a problem for him late in rounds 4, rounds 5. Because Brandon Royval, I mean, look, we've seen him get controlled, like especially in his last fight. Alexandre Pantoja controlled him to kind of get a victory, whereas the first time they fought, Pantoja was able to choke him out, which means that Royval's practiced and, you know, trained his submission defense, which is good. But Pantoja's Pantoja. Like, I don't know how Tatsuro Taira would do it in a grappling match against Pantoja. I mean, maybe we'll get to find out pretty soon, but it's a tricky one for me because I favor Tatsuro Taira for like the first 2.5 rounds. But if he can't finish him, it could be a real fucking issue. And we saw in round 5, if I maybe even bits around 4 of the Pantoja fight for Royval, where Pantoja was tired because he was using a ton of energy grappling as well. And then Brandon Royval's shots kind of started to have a bit more effect on him, and you could see that Pantoja was a little bit more desperate to get the fight to the ground than he was in the first few rounds. Like in the first few rounds, he was more than willing to eat some shots to get to the mat. In round number 5, it was starting to kind of, you know, you could tell he didn't like taking those shots anymore, because that's like, you know, we see that with guys that have a real volume heavy style where their shit doesn't start hurting until you're exhausted, till round 4, round 5, when you're like, okay, I've been hit with the same thing like 45 times. It's kind of hurts now. So I'm picking Tatsuro Taira, but holy shit, dude. I really want him to win too, because I think it shakes things up a bit at flyweight, obviously, which always needs that. It's kind of stale right now. Brandon Royval, in his fight with Brandon Moreno, that was not a very good fight. Even Brandon Moreno, you know, was, I don't know, fighting very odd, throwing big overhand rights, no boxing combinations. I don't know if he's just not too keen on getting hit anymore or what it was, but that fight kind of sucked, if I'm being honest. We just saw Pantoja and Royval. Royval has now lost to Pantoja twice, so we don't really need to see it again. I know Kai Kara-France is there, but we're going to need somebody after, right? And Amir Albazi, so I'm hoping that Taira can, you know, get this done and shake things up a little bit and be in title contention after this. But I'm worried for rounds 4 and round 5, because I don't know if he can finish Brandon Royval. He does seem to have a little bit more of aggressive style than Pantoja, at the very least in the Royval fight. Pantoja seemed more than content to kind of just do enough to remain on the ground and win the rounds and things like that. So, you know, maybe he gets it done. But you never know, dude. What are the odds? Minus 258, bro. I'll tell you what. If I was betting, just because of the odds, I would bet on Brandon Royval. But for the sake of trying to get a pick right, I'm going to pick Tatsuro Taira. Although, like I said, I'm not overly confident in it. Either way, dude. That's it. UFC Vegas 98. Okay. Royval versus Tatsuro Taira takes place, like I said, tomorrow evening. Enjoy the fights. Like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. I'll see you at the next video. Bye-bye.